You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Action Comics number 1067, written by Gail Simone with art by Eddie Barrows, Danny Mickey, Rex Locus, and Dave Sharp. And then this is a weird story because this is what's being monikered as the Superman Superstars, where it's like pretty much whatever kind of Superman stories you're going to write, you're going to do that. And Gail Simone decided for some reason in this whole thing where it's leading towards absolute power, we just got done the House of Brainiac that we're going to have a pre-crisis Superman story that's out of continuity and doesn't matter to anything anymore and just feels kind of like a weird out-of-time situation that doesn't really go anywhere for the first issue.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to have this. And again, they also said that Superman Superstars were the creative teams as well, Eric, so it's all around. But with that, it does feel weird to jump back in a book that was big going into absolute power and now go to this. And I don't know. I think they should have done a little bit better. You can tell pretty much right away, but I think some people won't be able to tell right away. And it should have pretty much had a stamp like, hey, this is, Golden Age. This is Silver Age. This is
the 1970s.
Yeah, and I think that when we go through all these, we'll probably get a, future Superman story. This is where I think, here, stay with me here, Eric, if you can keep up here. I think they're going to get Philip Kennedy Johnson to come back, even though it's weird to come back on a book and tell that House of L story in 3 issues in this. I think that's actually, in my mind, a prediction of what will be next
the thing
on
is,
this.
Jim, I don't know about that because, like I said previously during the War Journal, he needs at least one more story after War Journal before he can get to that definitive House of L story.
The War Journal, that ends and then it's just going to be backups.
And I'm saying, though, then it has to go into something else to give us that further Olgram piece that we have to get to go to the far-flung future to the House of L.
I got my phone here. I'm calling Mr. DC. Hey, Mr. DC, can we have a couple more non-selling series
Mr.
so we
DC,
get to what Eric wants?
That's not what Eric wants. It's what Eric feels should be.
Yeah, I know. But once we were just saying that, I'm like, yeah, I think he might come back for that 3 issue, and people will love it.
We have the Fire of Olgram, we have the Will of Olgram, and I just feel that we need one more something of Olgram before we get Olgram all together in the far-flung future.
I'm just on the poop, Eric. I'm telling you.
Always are.
Right, like you say that. There are a lot of people who like
half German.
I am. They like these. You want somewhere? What's it called? The War World Saga. A lot of people liked it. But I don't know a lot of people are sitting around pining for Olgram. They just like that story, and you kind of got past all that lore and nonsense.
I'm not sure that Olgram was the selling point of War World, with Mongol and War World and all.
Yeah, the weird thing is where you try to get that into the War Journal as if it was a selling point. I don't know what would be the selling point. If you're trying to grab on, maybe Mongol shows up? Would that be... Whatever, I don't know. I don't know what the selling point from War World would have been.
I'm saying the whole thing is people just don't understand how big the idea of that a god from the first world is coming back, and that means big trouble for everybody.
Yeah, that does mean big trouble for me trying to understand it, and then
big trouble for little Jimmy.
Big trouble for little Jimmy. I ended up freaking out on a guy, started cursing him out because of that book, and it wasn't you, Eric. It was somebody else, but. Here we are.
Sure, it's me too.
Yeah, probably. No, I actually leaned on you to try to, figure it out. But the more I got into it from you telling me, the least I liked it. But you end up here. There's Lois. There's Jimmy. What the hell happened to him? And I like Eddie Barrows. Holy Christ. Look, faces are the worst.
No. Eddie Barrows, I think, does a fine job in this issue. It's classic Eddie Barrows. I think the entire art team is good. The only problem is that Lois has some uncanny valley going on where she looks like she's a sex doll.
Oh, I'm telling you. I think that the art at points is pathetic. And I like Eddie Barrows. That first picture that you're leading in, that is fucking horrific. It looks like they're both Joker eyes. I think Clark is looking like, the fuck happened to these guys? And you have, everybody, doing the glances down at the mini skirt. But it gets better.
The hems are raising, Jim. It's summertime in Metropolis.
There is another part that it's Lois again. Oh, there it is. It's when she's like, Prime slot, here we come. I'm like, Joker's. I'm like, what the hell happened? There's some weird faces, but some of the action is really good, and the Superman stuff is really good. So overall, the art is good. It's just there's such a departure though for anybody.
It's such a departure though for anybody who's coming into this after just reading newer comics. With the idea that from 1970 something or early 70s until into the 80s. we had, our Daily Planet team working for WGBS, for the television, and they're out there about trying to get news stories for TV instead of spreading the word through, paper.
Yeah, and so they're on, the news team going out, and there's Jimmy with his, video camera deal. And
Mr.
they're going,
Action.
Yeah, Mr. Action. They're going to talk to Jefferson Pierce about the closing of the youth center. And it's okay. I mean, you get a little bit of a, character in here, but it doesn't do much.
That's the thing. Is you go to see Jefferson Pierce, like, holy shit, Black Lightning's here. Okay, he's 70s Black Lightning. He's the principal of the school here. He's trying to make sure the youth center has some recognition out there so they, the people of Metropolis don't shut it down. And then all of a sudden, as you're doing this, TP teleport comes in of an alien being who just starts wrecking house where Clark has to excuse himself, become Superman, and come back in to save the day. And it just becomes this whole big deal because you have this monster alien thing, this Gunhar of the Garathians, and then out of nowhere, when Superman starts going to town on him, he's stopped by this little guy called Zolt of the Stahl people. And look, Superman, we are actually diplomats. This ugly motherfucker here, he's a diplomat too. You wouldn't want to deal with his warriors because you couldn't take on their shit. But the thing is, we had this intergalactic peace treaty. We're not a bunch of fighters, you gotta understand this. But we let these freaking Garathians in, and they started putting us through the Hunger Games. And every time we lost the Hunger Games, we done lost pieces of our land. And they keep doing this shit over and over again. And we have come to you for help. And it feels so weird. I don't know if the Garathians are just looking for, some kind of challenge now. But to have the Garathians come down with the people of Zolt, not to mention, whatever other people are part of this treaty that aren't shown here, come down and say, Superman, you are a champion. You got to pick 2 other people, and you have to fight our champion, or we'll destroy your world on the dot. I'm like, I don't know what the plan is, or why we're coming
here. What the deal is, and even then, you have the alien first come down, and we ended up, and I was trying to think who it was. I don't think it was Mark Russell. It might have been Kevin Scott. I can't remember where we had that Justice League story. Actually, it might be Cy Spurrier. It's all rolling. Where we had them go. When that Justice League, the team was changing around a lot after Scott Snyder left, and we had that little story where they went to the planet, and there was the 2 factions against each other, and they had to pick. No, I don't think it was. It was
Priest?
Somebody that we don't really like. No, I'd have to look, but this kind of reminded me of the same deal. It just, I don't know. We might have a reveal like this guy's not on the up and up. They're lying. I don't know. I wasn't interested. They come down. We're going to show us what you got. In the meantime, this alien comes down with this huge giant rifle, and some of the guys shooting hoops are like, we're going to take it to them. And I'm like, they're all going to die. What are they
Everyone's
doing?
Going to die. Because not only that, but you have an armada of warships surrounding Earth at this point, ready to open fire. Superman says he won't show you what you got.
Yeah. And these aliens, they're not shooting anybody. Superman grabs the gun and eats it for some damn reason.
Oh my God,
so
that
weird.
is the weirdest. I'm telling you, Jessica came back in from Walmart. I'm just going over the book one last time before we got on today. I'm like, look, this is the weirdest panel you're going to see this week at DC Comics. It's just Superman chewing on an alien rifle.
Yeah, and she looks at the page before. She's like, who's that Gollum-looking dude?
Don't worry about that.
He's like a Gollum meets the Guardians. But you end up with this weird thing. They're there taking it to the street. Superman eats the gun. A lot of other guys come down. They start yelling at each other, and it's just this idea of well, why do we care? The only thing I like is I do like the alien calling him orphan. That kind of is a diss, Eric. I like that, but I just didn't get into it. Like you said, though, what are we dealing with? We have this whole plan. Are they just here just to be here? Did this little guy, did he decide?
This Dobby-looking bitch?
Yeah, he seems like he's like, oh, well, if I'm going to have to fight, let me go get Superman. They're like, we're coming
Superman,
along.
You don't understand. I'm not with them. We're their captors, and these aren't the warriors. These are diplomats just like me. But for some reason, I got to get you involved because, us being alien races, we did know something about Superman. So we started following Clark Kent, Lois Lane, and Mr. Action around because those are his closest associates just to find you.
Yeah. So you end up in where I'm going is that little guy, he picks Superman to defend his planet, but yet they're threatening Earth because of that, and then Superman has to go. It doesn't really, the bad guy is Dobby. He should have kept his mouth shut. If they don't have a warrior,
Stitches get stitches. Come on.
That's the thing. Fuck them. If they don't have a warrior, that's what this guy's yelling at him about. You're worthless. You don't have warriors.
We ain't fight as Superman.
I wonder if they're going to have to go and check the Olympics. It's he has 1% Dobby, Superman does, so he can go and be on their team. Right away, I'd be calling, foul. If the idea of Superman, that's weird. Afterwards, Superman's like, no, I can't do it. He's like, you know Thanos' number? Or what's his name? Not even Thanos. I don't even know what I'm saying now. Darkseid, I meant. You know Darkseid's number, and they're like, it just, the whole thing just was nothing. And then you're waiting
even the
for
idea
Black
of
Lightning, and that doesn't show.
Black Lightning does show up, because when Superman does agree with this, and we're told that, all right, you have 2 other champions you can pick, and Superman says, well, I get Wonder Woman, I get Batman. It is already decided. You have Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, because he walks towards them. This guy's really big on no time, right?
No, he's like, this guy really wants to win.
I mean, this guy either is in a real big hurry, or really. So
he's just cheating and changing the rules as he goes.
What it reminds me of is what this one guy used to do to me that I grew up around. This guy was a little bit older, but there was a kid on the block that had a couple problems there. We'll leave it at that. So it was a catching contest. You would have failed. But he ends up like, here, and I think this guy's name was JR. Here, JR, catch the ball. And he basically put it like there. And they go, here, Jim, and throw it at my feet. And then they'd all start cheering that JR beat me in the contest. And I go fucking nuts. I went fucking nuts. JR was the guy.
Catch the ball, Jim.
JR was the guy who I ended up where I had to deal with him when the IBM picnics. So it was that same guy. I was still mad. I'm like, you can't catch better than me, jerk. But yeah,
nobody else can do that.
It's all this. You should have saw. They pretty much almost picked him up in the air, though they couldn't. I can't say that.
It's the best part, because I would have imagined you were 8 years old.
Yeah, probably.
Were you 8 years old?
Yeah, probably.
And
about
you're
8
still
or 9.
bothered by this.
I am. I'm furious. I got so angry.
A kid with some disabilities threw a ball down, and you couldn't catch the ball,
like,
and you're
legitimately,
upset about
I tried to beat around the bush. The kid was in a wheelchair, so they couldn't.
Oh,
but they were trying to pick him up. I guess maybe I could have looked at it. They were letting the guy get a win, but it wasn't like that.
Not in your mind.
It was all against me. They were doing it on purpose.
Because they like JR and not you.
No, JR had a lot of problems. At one point, he thought that he could be cool because he did have some mechanical thing that kind of helped his breathing or something. It did look like Darth Vader.
That's pretty badass.
Nobody liked it, though. I actually was nice to JR. I tried to be. Talk shit behind his back. I was a kid, Eric. I don't know. But
here you are, an adult, almost in your freaking golden years, and you're still furious.
Golden years. Where's David Bowie? At one point, the same guys, Joe, one of my friends, and this other guy, they ended up spreading a rumor that poor JR had lice, and I almost fought the guys for JR. What's going on, Eric?
Were you the one with the lice?
No.
Trying to hide it?
No. Luckily, I never had lice. Thank God. That I know of. But yeah, so back to the issue. There's not much to talk about, really. So you have these two races come down, these alien races, and I'm expecting Black Lightning's going to show. Oh, he's not. And then I'm like, okay, why do you care? Why are you doing this? Why don't they just come down and say, we need Earth's champion Superman? Get rid of this nonsense with Dobby. It doesn't make much sense. Whole thing.
Because even the Garathians are pissed that Dobby here is talking shit about his circumstance. Like, you lying little mongrel. And I'm like, he's trying to get you I don't understand what you want here. Obviously, you want to fight Superman with your champion, but he's trying to get Superman to fight, and you're like yelling at him about this whole thing. I just don't understand the circumstances. And when Superman finally does agree, you pick Lois and Jimmy Olsen as his co-champions. For some reason, we then teleport ourselves to the USS Battle Creek, the super carrier that's floating above Metropolis, just like an aircraft carrier above Metropolis, and that's our battleground for some reason.
That's the battleground.
Why?
Just because it's long? I don't know. No, and they're above.
That's the idea. We're aliens coming down to Earth looking for Hunger Game type shit going on.
I thought they were going to go off to their planet. I thought they were going to teleport
or maybe
off, right?
One of their ships. Why are we freaking levitating a super carrier above Metropolis?
I think they're showing off. They're showing off, Eric. They're like, look. And if anything goes wrong, Superman loses, the carrier then drops and destroys Metropolis and half of the state or whatever. So you have all this going on. But like I said, all you needed to do, they seem to be aware of the news team. They come down, say, Superman, you are now Earth's champion. Come and fight our guys. And by the way, the news team is going to, televise the exploits. It could have been easy. But you're on an aircraft carrier up above Metropolis out of nowhere with this weird thing and a guy who really doesn't like to take time doing stuff. And then just ends up and he's like, Superman of Earth and Krypton, meet your opponent. I'm looking at, I thought he was pointing to that old potato head looking guy. I'm like, all right, oh no. And that's just a big parasite looking alien type thing.
And I thought it was a mutated parasite at first, but it is just a big old purple alien with big old...
the handsome. And then Eric,
he's got a bunch of teeth.
what happens then, Eric? What happens on that page? That's bull crap. He says great row. We keep having this again. And I always think I have to explain it because of the idea that it is a bunch of classic Dan Jurgens, a bunch of Superman writers in the past have pretty much plainly said, if you write great row in a book with Superman, it's nonsense because he never grew up on Krypton. He grew up in Kansas, and he wouldn't have a connection. But you have it.
For a weird situation, I think I'll just because it is a pre-crisis story.
It's still the same, I think. I just don't get it. It's nothing, but it's there just to have it. I mean, he really would yell, holy shit, or something. And then Jimmy's yelling, we got your back, Superman. I'm like, I wish he went to Jimmy like, how? How do you have my back? But yeah, he's
in the meantime, while Superman struggles against Galaxy here, you do have Hal Jordan, Wonder Woman, and Hawkman trying to get in there, but there's an energy field blocking them from the battle.
Yeah, so that's there. So I get Gail Simone trying to show you that. Why wouldn't somebody show up to help? I don't mind that. But I do mind that Galaxy is just like eating planes and shit, killing people. Superman at one point does like the triple heat vision that he's going to try. But in the meantime, he's a little bit more aggressive than like now. This would be like, I better find out about what's going on. And oh, you have a thorn in your thing. This thing is there to kill him and actually says, I'm going to eat you. I'm going to.
Once I have consumed you.
Yeah. And he says, I actually at one point, I don't know why, when it said, do not struggle, pray. Oh, I thought that it was like a wink, wink, that he was going to actually swallow him. Then they'd go back to the ships and then Superman would get like, maybe pooped out, but come out. Like this was a thing that this Galaxy wanted to escape that was pissed off. It wasn't that, Eric. And you end up where it's the Sarlacc pit at one point.
And Superman has to close the Sarlacc pit by using some Arctic breath to freeze it shut.
Bada bing, bada boom.
And that's the thing. Galaxy the Handsome is defeated, but it looks like our alien visitors, Hunger Games enthusiasts, they're not big old, they're sort of winners, or sort of losers is what they are, because all of a sudden the USS Battle Creek starts falling from the sky, and that's where we leave this issue with, oh my God, Superman, what are you going to do? I'm like, catch the goddamn thing. I don't know what your power set is right now, but what are we doing?
It seems enough.
I just have to imagine he's not that strong at this point in time. This be for the time frame of what it's going to be, but you have Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Hawkman there. They're all being, the energy field should be down since everything's falling down. Galaxy the Handsome's defeated. All the Justice League should show up to save the day.
Even if they don't, then if they do say that, then it's awful storytelling. You never showed us this. He's fighting Galaxy at one point. You should kind of mention or do something to tell, because this is an out-of-time story that people aren't going to know, especially newer readers, and they're just going to be, hey, this is kind of fun, whatever. At the end, it seemed goofy. When they said, oh, no, the carrier's falling, who would be able to stop it? Like they're saying it facetiously to get Superman off his ass because he's just standing there like, I don't know who might save us, Superman. Oh, you mean me? Yeah, I don't get it. I thought that maybe like scoop Superman. I don't know. It just falling. You're like, of course he's going to do it. Lois is yelling, do something. Is it just going to start the next issue with him just grabbing it? And I don't know. And then what does it go from here? Are we still doing this? Is this fight games over? I don't know.
I have to assume we're not. But the thing is, introducing the story with the idea that the youth center is going to be torn down, and Lois Lane coming in and scooping the story from Clark, talking about how there were some bribes going in to make sure that bills passed. There weren't things. It seems like that is going to be our main concern. I just don't know why it has to be thrown in with this alien Hunger Games situation. Well, you get back to Black Lightning then at least.
You get this fight. And, I mean, it's crazy. You have an armada surrounding Earth. And then after that, he saves the nuclear-fueled aircraft carrier. Everybody's fine. He's like, oh, yeah, back to the team center. And then he gets there. They start interviewing. Some other asshole shows up and what's. I don't know. It's just a weird play. I do want to see some Black Lightning.
It's a very weird issue.
It feels odd. It feels very, very odd. And even the pacing of it is just odd, but we do have a backup as well. Give us the credits for that.
Well, their backup written by Rainbow Rowell with Cian Tormé, Rabia Fajardo Jr., and Dave Sharp. And for some reason, there's not a lot that goes on in this backup, but I think I like it a ton more than our front up right here with the idea of Lois Lane being pretty much stressed out for the idea of taking over Perry White's job as editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet. and her responsibilities of making sure that things run smoothly and people do respect her for being this person.
Yeah, and I'm all for some stories that go back in time or whatever. You know, you have that Gail Simone story. But this one right away, when you're like, oh, this is current. So you're like, this might mean something. So you pay attention. And then I'm not a huge Rainbow Rowell fan. I don't see anything wrong with this. This is pretty good. And
didn't Atomic Skull die?
And, well, he did, but he's back there.
Atomic Skull is back, rampaging, and Superman has to subdue him and hope that he can get Albert back under control.
At least they remember, though, him being a good guy.
He was the cheerleader for Albert becoming reformed all this time, and he wants to make sure that the Atomic Skull isn't remembered as a villain.
Yeah, so all this starts off where Lois is kind of, stressed out. She doesn't really think that she can do Perry's job, didn't want to do it, but now she's doing it. She says she'd rather be a reporter. She's afraid people won't respect her, but Clark keeps saying, no, we all respect you. Everybody respects you.
Fucking lane.
Yeah, yeah. And so the whole thing where all of a sudden there's news of Atomic Skull and Clark's like, I'm going to go there. And you have that intern's like, man, he's really into the story. But
the Marisol?
Yeah. So you end up where he does this. It's a weird end. Like, you have this fight with Atomic Skull. And
it's
okay,
Mariposa.
What's going on? And then, okay. And then the fight just ends. And, hey, here you go, boys. Shake some hands, go back. And he says, I have the story. I have the Atomic Skull story. And Lois says, no, I'm putting Mariposa on it. The intern, who's not an intern anymore. Clark doesn't pay attention.
She's full time now, Clark.
So she says, you're too close to the story. You were pretty much, like you said, almost the sponsor.
Just
for
love
Atomic
this
Skull.
idea, though. She gets put in charge.
Yeah.
And also,
I'm
everything
pissed.
that she's always known since she's known that Clark has been Superman, that was all fine. Then now that she's in charge, now you're too close to the story. We have to have freaking, I can't think of the word.
Ethics.
Freaking, ethics.
Yeah.
What is that word?
Ethics.
Integrity.
We don't deal with ethics or integrity much here on the show, but it's bullshit. I'm telling you, he even says, you never had a problem before. I have my friends and stuff. He is the man
on the scene. He has inside information. He could write a hell of a goddamn story. Put Clark on it.
And legitimately, she used to get scoops from Clark being Superman, but even so,
nonstop.
It's not. Now, this one's a little different, and maybe frame it a little different, that she's afraid that he's going to be too nice to Atomic Skull, but it's still whatever. I wouldn't mind having an editorial piece by Clark Kent saying, listen, Atomic Skull had some problems, but we have to wait and see. I don't know. She makes it seem like he's going to write the biggest bullshit story ever. And she's like, I'm the
Skull
editor.
Was a hero who misstepped a little bit, but he'll be a hero again. Don't worry. By Clark Kent.
By Clark Kent. But Atomic Skull for president. Atomic Skull for editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet. He's running a grassroots program. I don't know what she thinks. Also, she's married to him. Also, he's a good guy. He's not going to step over.
He's Superman.
Yeah, so instead you put Mariposa on it. And boy, Clark is pissed.
Again. Don't be mad at Mariposa. None of this is her fault.
I'm pissed at her. She probably is, doing some mind control. I think that Lois is just stressed out. Now, what's interesting in this is Lois is now going with what the world did when they learned Superman's identity and wanted to take everything away from him. And now Lois is going with it. She is sus, though. I don't know why. I like the art in this, and I really, really like Clark sitting on the desk for some reason. He looks so relaxed and kind of
But
cool
I want to
there.
know why Atomic Skull is attacking Steelworks and Steel isn't the one taking care of it.
Well, that might have been the story that Clark was running with, but now they
Maybe.
can't.
What's Mariposa going to say?
Mariposa's good. Who knows? It probably, you go and half the letters are backwards or something. I don't know why I think of Mariposa can't write a story, but still, maybe it's because she dresses like me. The hell is she doing? Look at everybody there.
And women's
she's going
clothes?
up. No, she's got a hoodie or something on. It looks like maybe women's clothes. But it ends with pissed off Lois. I don't know. It looks like dinner's going to be served cold tonight. You know what I'm saying? Supper, man.
No,
that
I'm just thinking
joke.
about the idea of, young John Kent before he was aged up having to go into heat up his own pizza in the oven because the parents were working. She's not cooking dinner.
That was the biggest problem that Lois had early on, is why she was dating Lex Luthor half the time, because he'd take her out to dinner. She can't cook worth a shit.
Was that during the Lois Lane still series that she was meeting up with Lex in Chicago?
Yeah, they were stepping out.
The scandal.
Yeah, they were stepping out at the beginning. He was always trying to get her to go on to dates, but there it is. Lois is pissed, and she's the sassy editor. It's okay. It's okay.
I like it way more than the front up. which is sad for me because it's an Action Comics book. I was so happy to get Gail Simone here. It just feels like, as of right now, for the first issue at least, our main story is directionless. Maybe it'll change as we continue, but right now, I couldn't tell you what the story's about.
It feels like a mess.
Things just happen, and I couldn't tell you why.
Just to let everybody know, me and you, neither of us have any problems with Gail Simone. This is no vendetta or anything like that, Eric. But I don't know. Maybe she hasn't been writing a ton. She's going to be doing Uncanny X-Men coming up soon over at Marvel. But I don't know. She feels like she's getting back to this, and it's like DC has kind of left her behind. So she goes into the past, and it still feels like it's left behind. This doesn't feel like a story that you need to read. But we'll see. We have 2 more issues. But what would you give it?
I would ultimately, because of the backup, and I like the art throughout, even though Lois looks weird with Eddie Barrows, but I do love Eddie Barrows' art, a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I'm a 6 as well. I think a 6 is a solid score for it, but it does increase because of the backup, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, I know, right?
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.